Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I wanted to make a video today to showcase a build that uses the 4-piece Zuni set, but isn't necessarily a pet build. Now, the majority of the pet builds I put up on YouTube were pretty much like just straight up pet builds. This build is a little bit different. This uses the 4-piece Zuni set, but it's not the focus of the build. It's kind of a extra, like, elite boss killer to go with the rest of the build. And kind of wanted to explain too the differences between, you know, how you should gear and what kind of gems you should use for your weapon, especially depending on what the pet build consists of. Whether it's a pet build that the majority of your damage is coming from your pets, which at that point you want to use a ruby probably. But a build like this, where the pets are kind of not necessarily an afterthought, but you know, they're not the main focus of the damage, I'm still using a green gem in this build. So the build, basically, 4-piece Zuni set, your fetish army lasts until they die. Now this is exactly why I was telling you guys in Loot 2.0 at level 60 to get the Zuni set if you could. Because what you're able to do is you're able to mix and match level 60 and level 70 Zuni pieces. So I've got level 60 Zuni Morrow and Trail, and then a level 70 Pox that I got today. So this is the Pox right here. And then with the Royal Ring of Grandeur, that reduces the number of items needed for set bonuses by 1. We can run the 3-piece and not have to worry about getting all 4 pieces of Zuni. So we're doing that. The rest of the build is going to focus on Lumbering Cold and Well of Souls, Spirit Barrage. Just to go over quickly the rest of the gear though, we're running a Thunder Fury as the weapon. This proc is obviously very, very good, very solid. And the majority of our damage is coming from the Thunder Fury, the Lumbering Cold, and Well of Souls. So with over 50% chance to crit, we're going to go with a green gem still, even though we're going to be running 8 fetishes at all times with the Zuni 4-piece. So like in a build like this build is not all focused on pets. If I were to run a build that was just solely my pets were doing all my damage with Taskers and Mascajarum, and I was just focusing on that, I'd much more consider running a Ruby here. But the pets are just kind of added damage more than anything. I mean, they do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, you know, buffed up, they're critting for like 2 million, something like that. So we are running a Mascajarum, which this is obviously very good, 100% pet damage, can't get much better. Obviously the end could be better, but we are running that to buff them, mainly because there's not really any other voodoo masks or anything that I wanted to run in the build, so there's no reason not to run this and buff my pets. So it's kind of a hybrid build, really. The rest of the gear, you know, we're rocking just rare pants, a Legacy Witching Hour, Golden Gorget of Leoric, which with a pretty sick roll. I'd like to have cold damage on this potentially. Strong Arm Bracers with cold skills. Gazing Demise, this is my best mojo at the moment with Zombie Charger damage on it. Gladiator Gauntlets, and then Deathwatch Mantle. I would say this is probably one of the better shoulder pieces for this build. Obviously I have not re-rolled this yet. I could definitely re-roll it to be better than this. But you know, an extra 200% weapon damage pretty frequently, really. 28% chance to do that is pretty frequent, and a lot of times you're in melee range with this build with the Lumbering Cold. So it procs a good amount. We're at pretty high toughness, 5.5 million, little under 1 million unbuffed damage, but obviously there's a lot of hidden sheet DPS when you're talking about, you know, the extra damage for the pets, the extra cold damage, and the extra zombie charger damage, and then the proc from Thunder Fury obviously does not show up on your sheet. So as far as the rest of our stats, we're at 56% chance to crit, a little over 400% crit damage, and 1.61 attacks per second. As far as Paragon goes, so I needed 14% movement speed, so we went there. I've got 11% on my boots, and that's it to get the 25% max movement speed. Offense is crit chance first, and then crit damage. Defense is all res, then life percentage. And utility is resource cost reduction first and foremost, and then area damage. As far as the build goes, the main damage is Lumbering Cold. You're going to use this primarily to clear trash. You're going to use it on Elite Champion Pack some, but there'll be times where you know, in higher torments, we're going to do a torment 3 for this video. In higher torments, you're not going to be able to just sit in there and melee and Lumbering Cold unless your toughness is really high. I've got high toughness, and sometimes I still can't do it, especially against Electrified. With Electrified proccing from the Lumbering Cold and the fetishes, Electrified will wreck you. So there's a lot of times on Elite and Champions that I'll sit back and just Spirit Barrage like crazy while my pets are also dealing damage. So it's really versatile. It's really good. It's pretty dynamic to play it because you're kind of in and out of melee and ranged quite often. It goes together really well. Obviously with Spirit Barrage, we're going to run Rush of Essence for mana. I can get up to over 200 mana per second if I sit there and just spam Well of Souls with Rush of Essence. Big Bad Voodoo's Slam Dance. Now, like, just popping Slam Dance makes your pets hit for a ton of damage. Because, you know, pets are not snapshotted, so whatever your damage is at the time, your pets are going to have that damage. It's not like Pestilence or any of the damage over time effects. Piranhas goes very well with Lumbering Cold, pull everything in and AoE it down. Spirit Walk Honored Guest, which is off a cooldown constantly with Graven Justice for more mana. Fetish Army Legion of Daggers, currently for 8 dagger-wielding fetishes. Gruesome Feast for the damage buffing. I mean, when you're killing really fast, even though it's hard to keep up 5 stacks of Gruesome Feast, even if you only have a stack or 2 of Gruesome Feast, that's still 10 to 20% extra intelligence. So obviously the more int that you have, the higher that percentage is going to be, the more damage it's going to give you. So you want as much int as possible in most builds. Obviously we're not running Soul Harvest at the moment, but, I mean, it's still very good. So Graven Justice, like I said, for reducing cooldowns more than anything, with a little bit added benefit of getting some life and mana back. Jungle Fortitude, just because, like I said, we're in melee a lot, just taking less damage that way, and Rush of Essence I talked about. So that's pretty much the build. For the most part. One thing to keep in mind too is how powerful the 2-piece Zuni set is, 30 mana per kill. Just about in any build that uses a lot of mana, 2-piece Zuni is going to be very, very good. 30 mana per kill is no joke. That is a lot of mana. So that's it. Let's go ahead and jump into it, do a couple bounties to show you exactly how good it does and how to play it and all that good stuff. So let's go to Hollows of Agni level 3 here. Get the fetishes out. Now, like I said, the majority of the time on trash mobs, you're going to be pretty much just Lumbering Colding. And like on this pack, I can pretty much do it a little bit, but like I said, you know, you got to be a little bit careful. A lot of times on packs, you're going to have to let your fetishes do a lot of work and just kind of sit back a little bit. And Well of Souls. Because, you know, if I were to try to just sit in that pack right there, I would have probably got rocked. But not every pack. A lot of packs you'll be able to just Lumbering Cold down. It just really depends on the pack. You need to kind of evaluate it as you go. And again, this is Torment 3. Like on Torment 1, you could just Lumbering Cold everything. Like honestly, if I was doing Torment 1 with my gear setup, I would probably just drop Well of Souls for something else and just Lumbering Cold everything. Because things would be dying just so fast. It wouldn't matter. My fetishes will catch up with me here. Now, don't think that you need to have a Thunder Fury to make this build work by any means. It just makes it very good. You know, there's a lot of other weapons that will work very well. What comes to mind right off the bat is an Azure Wrath would be insane. It would give you more crowd control, more survivability, and stuff like that, which actually potentially could be better for higher torments. Obviously, the proc from the Thunder Fury does give you some survivability, but not as much as just freezing things. Some other things, Shard of Hate would be very good. Even like a Mad Monarch Scepter, even though it does poison damage, which just keep in mind that any elemental damage buff that you have on your gear, so if, say for instance you have 18% poison damage on your bracers, that's going to buff the proc from the Mad Monarch Scepter, the Poison Nova that comes out. And that works for just about any kind of effect from a legendary that does an element type of damage that will buff those things. So like if I had lightning damage for instance right now, it would buff the proc, the damage from the Thunder Fury. Alright, so that's the wrong way. Do this Cursed Chest. Hopefully get a lead out of it. Nope, no lead. Now, there's a lot of belts you can run with this. A lot of times I'll end up running the Harrington Waistguard. Just because, like I said, the pets, you know, they're going to deal the damage that you have on your sheet when you have it. You know, they're not snapshotted, so you can go, you know, increase your damage by over 100% with a Harrington Waistguard and buff your pets up like crazy, and they'll be critting for like 4 or 5 million at that point. In fact, I'll pop it on just to kind of showcase it real quick. So if I run over here and loot a dead body or a chest, my pets will start critting extremely hard. Which is something I like to do a lot of the time. Unfortunately, my Harrington Waistguard is only level 60. So they're critting for like 4 million now, just with that buff. If I were to have, you know, 3 or 4 stacks of Gruesome Feast, they'd be critting for even more. I mean, not to mention the fact that I'm critting for like 5 million now. It really kind of depends on the area that you're farming. Like in an area like this, where there's tons of weapon racks, and there's tons of chests and dead bodies to loot, which all those proc the Harrington Waistguard, which that's it right there. Opening a chest grants 121 increased damage for 10 seconds. It's probably a good idea to put it on. I keep it in my inventory just depending on the zone that I'm farming. If I'm farming a zone that doesn't have a ton of things like that to loot, then I will switch back to the Witching Hour. But in an area like this, there's a bunch of weapon racks and stuff. You can get really insane buffs. So let's see how much they're hitting for now. 5 million. Pets are hitting for 5 million, and that's not even in like a dedicated pet build, really. I mean, obviously I'm running the Mask of Jerem, which increases their damage by a bunch, but you know, I could be making my pets hit much harder if I really wanted to. But like I said, I'm not really too worried about it. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much the build. I mean, that's about it. I just want to showcase that real quick. I'm going to be running this on stream a good bit. I'll put a link to my stream in the info section. I've got a link to anybody, like I've been getting asked that quite a bit in the comments here on YouTube, what my stream is. If you just look right on the banner of my YouTube page, there should be a little, in the bottom right corner of the banner, there should be a little Twitch icon, and you can click on it and it'll take you right to my Twitch page, but I'll link it either way. So I'll be running this on stream if you got any questions or anything like that. But yeah, that's it. And you can do something like this with the Zuni set. I think the Zuni set actually is best utilized for the most part in like a hybrid build like this, where it's a benefit to what you're doing, but it's not the focal point of the build. Because I think a lot of people get blinded by just trying to make the best pet build they can possibly make. And that's not necessarily always the best way to do it. Now, I'm not saying that a ruby wouldn't be good in my weapon, because you could definitely run it that way if you really wanted to and make your fetishes better. But personally, in a build like this, I like the crit damage, because it's pretty hard to get crit damage these days. You know, you can't get the crit damage you used to be able to. So that's the build, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like it. You got any questions or anything, just leave a comment. I'll try to get to you. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So yeah, thanks. I'll see you next time.